Good morning to all of you. Can everybody hear me? And higher, lower? Can you hear me now? Okay. I also know that many of you speak other languages other than English. I am sorry to say that I am disadvantaged and only speak English with just a little Spanish. I want to welcome you all today. I'm going to somewhat divert from what I actually wrote in some areas, because I think that we all have the same wants and needs in healthcare. Traditional medicine is now beginning to come into its own. The ISO, the International Standards Organization, has worked on 5 different things, which first was the needles that you use in acupuncture. Are they standardized? And which needle is the best? 3 companies submitted their needles because they were looking to see if the handle separated from the shaft. So Sarin was the needle from Japan that came out first. If you ever have an opportunity to go to Sarin, you should. They have a brand new factory. All the needles are done mechanically. There is no handwork done on them, as opposed to all the needles that come from China. Now that's for acupuncture people. I also have had the privilege to work with the World Health Organization. This is all volunteer. And I'm going to ask you to imagine something in this world, and that is a world where the healing wisdom of centuries seamlessly integrates with cutting-edge technology, where acupuncture and Ayurveda work in collaboration with biomedicine to improve lives of citizens of the world. What would that look like? What would that look like in your country? What would that look like in your life? This is the future that we are building. I am very happy to see each one of you, because each one of you is going to play a role in this, because one person does make a difference. So as we look forward to the future, we also have to look to the past, because it's centuries of culture, and health has taken its place all the way through culture. But we also have to look at the future. The World Health Organization is the health arm of the United Nations. And this whole process began in 1999. The countries of the world that belong to WHO, and there's 173 of them, they went to the United Nations meeting. I'm fine. They went to the United Nations, and those representatives said, now keep thinking 1999, that's quite a while ago. They said to the delegates at the United Nations, we can no longer afford the high cost of diagnostics, the high cost of pharmaceuticals, and the high cost of surgical interventions. Well, if you know anything about government, you know that it took a long time. And it took 4 years for the delegates of the United Nations to come together. Acupuncture, TCM. Well, that finally took root. And in 2003, they appointed a Korean medical doctor who practices Korean Oriental medicine to move to Manila, which is the Pacific Rim Collaborating Center. And his job was to gather and put together a technical advisory group That's called a tag. And he invited delegations from every country in the Pacific Rim, whether they used TCM or Korean medicine or Japanese medicine, whatever it was. And these people came together in Beijing. They were allowed to bring 1 to 5 delegates. And Dr. Choi, who was chosen from Korea to head this group, said, we have 2 responsibilities. The first responsibility is to standardize point location. Now you ask yourself, why does it need to be standardized? Well, because when it's standardized, then, and you learn the point locations and the protocols, or even if they're different, we can then begin to collect data. And you're going to hear me talk about a lot about data. Data is something that comes from documentation. And we haven't done much with that in the acupuncture world recently. So the second thing that they were to do was to produce a vocabulary list, a glossary. And I have with me today the new terminology that is going to be used. We as traditional medicine providers, whether it is acupuncture, whether it is naturopathy, whether it is Ayurveda, in order for us to be integrated into standardized healthcare around the world, we have to speak language that they understand. And right now, our language is different. We use chi and stagnation, and we use panchakarma and other words. People don't understand what those are. So even if they're written in your documentation, nobody can extrapolate data. So we have to learn to speak some new terms. So this project went from 2003 until the end of 2008. And there were 2 books that were produced. One is Point Location, 300 standard points, and one is Vocabulary. And the vocabulary list is the definitions from China, the definitions from Korea, and the definitions from Japan, because those are the 3 countries that stepped up, and they each paid 1.5 million from their government to help finance the project. And this is the way it is in the World Health Organization. Every project has to be financed independently. WHO does not finance that. So this happened and it started. And in 2005, somehow I got the 2nd seat. Don't ask, I don't know. But I have been there since 2005. That means this year it's 20 years. It's been a very, very interesting ride. Now, you take that and you take those codes that they began to do to write. But in 2012 and 2016, the World Health Organization did another survey. And this survey went out to the governments of every country in the world. And they were asked, and it took them a long time to fill those surveys out. And it asked, what type of interventions, treatments, modalities do you use in your healthcare? Well, the statistical analysis came out that 82% of the world's population uses some form of traditional medicine, whether it is from South America, whether it is from Asia, whether it is from Europe. It is a different form. So, and then at the same time, the country of India kept asking if they could be part of that. Well, somehow the answer kept coming back to no. Well, in 2000, I believe it was 17 or 18, the Minister of Ayush from India said to the World Health Organization, we want a set of codes. And the country of India sent $3 million to the World Health Organization to start that. And the people of India, the Minister of Ayush, has been very diligent, and they created their code set, which is also part of Chapter 26 in the International Classification of Codes, in 2 years. It took the people in acupuncture, let's see, I think it was about 17 years to be able to get that put together. Because one of the issues is that many of those countries do not like each other, and we all tend to argue. That is still going on, and I see smiles on your faces, so you know what I'm talking about, okay? Well, we have those codes. I have brought those codes to you today, a mapping of them. It's in Chapter 26 in the International Classification of Disease, Family of Classifications. So I want you to think about what it will take for this medicine, these medicines, to go forward. We cannot forget the cultures. We cannot forget the techniques. We cannot forget the herbs. We cannot forget all of the things that encompass traditional medicine. But we have to, as traditional medicine providers, begin to create unity. Now, diversity is our strength, and we are a very diverse group worldwide. But unity is our power, and we do not have power because we have no unity. And one of the things that I find, particularly in acupuncture, maybe somewhat in Ayurveda, is everyone thinks their teacher is the best. And so we stand on certainty. And certainty is the absolute enemy of unity. So one of the things in leadership is, are we willing to give on our particular position in order to get things going forward? I want you to think about who your circle of influence is. The head of the International Classification of Diseases, his name was Dr. Betteron Houston. He has since retired. We have a new gentleman, but he said this, and I found it very interesting. He said, if we do not count traditional medicine statistics, globally, traditional medicine does not count worldwide. Now, the WHO collects statistics. They collect statistics on mortality and morbidity. We in traditional medicine fall into the morbidity section. So we treat people who have issues, but maybe did not die from that issue. When I say count, and I ask my students at home, well, we use the codes for billing insurance. Well, that may be a way that some countries do, but that's not what WHO does. They count how many citizens die annually from such and such a diagnosis. So in short, if we do not count traditional medicine, 82% of the world's population does not get counted. So WHO has realized that their statistics in some areas are not showing what needs to be shown with people. So that is why this is a turning point for traditional medicine. Our job as practitioners now is to begin to think, how do we get our practitioners to help us collect data? And we think, data, what is data? How would we collect data? Well, we have two big programs coming up. One is the International Classification of Family of Function is coming up in Geneva in October. And we also have the second annual conference of traditional medicine worldwide in India in December. Now, why does WHO want data? They want the data to actually support and be able to tell the countries that we have data that supports what we all know works. We know that this medicine works. We also have to think about, where does traditional medicine belong in healthcare? Do we need to wait until the end? People are so sick and then they come to us hoping that we can do something as traditional providers? No, we need to be in prevention, and we need to show people how they need to stay well. We can't keep affording all of the high costs that are happening. A professor at Harvard University said, her name is Ruth Beth Moss, she said, all successful businesses are built on rich personal relationships. Yes, traditional medicine is a business. So we have to help our practitioners stay in business. We talk about jobs. Do we need jobs? Do all of your countries need jobs for traditional medicine practitioners? I have my experience in US. Almost every practitioner is a what I call a single doc in the box on the corner. They're by themselves. They're trying to do all the things that have to be done. But in order to integrate into healthcare and have them working in healthcare centers as hospitals, we need to show that this data is there. So we also need to begin to embrace whole person health. Now, this little story that I'm going to tell you, you're going to think, this happened in 2010. Now, keep in mind that I am not a practitioner. I am not a medical provider, but I'm a really good patient of all of your medicines, okay? I mean, I go to a naturopath, I go to my acupuncturist, I go to Ayurveda because you do a whole different thing than somebody else. So I'm thinking and going, we need to all become friends because we need the strength of everybody. And the medical doctors were gathered together in New York City. And I remember that it was cold. And I remember all the jackets were sort of piled over there. And this committee is a brand new committee. It's called the Patient Care and Safety Committee. And I said, why would I be put on this committee? Dr. Houston told me, because you make everybody push along. Okay, I can do that. So there's 26 medical doctors. They're all researchers, every one of them. And their job was to establish a safety classification. Safety is the #1 health concern in the world. And I'm going to put mental health under that, because safety and we do not report state safety issues on the same platform. We don't even use the same platform all through the United States. But how do we start to talk about safety? Safety is a #1 issue in healthcare. Think about what is going on in the world. Are people safe? Safety begins, and it's called safety first. Be safe, work safe, live safe. And it's a condition that is necessary for everything. It applies to health regulations. Safety applies to patient safety, practitioner safety, business safety, your facilities safety. Documentation is the way we show that things are safe. And I work in the malpractice insurance arena in the United States. And I see the documentation that comes in from various sources, whether it is a malpractice case, whether it is an audit that is happening. Documentation is your basis of telling what happened. It's your legal defense. And when documentation isn't there, and I see documentation that says SALT, does anybody know what that means? SALT, it's salt. It says same as last time. It's not the same as last time. Even if you just talk to the person, something that you said will resonate in their head. They're not the same as they were last time. Even if you saw them yesterday, one, they're a day older. And they don't write anything. They'll write acupuncture, or they'll write the word Ayurveda, or they'll write the word Panchakarma. There's nothing there that helps us to be able to further our medicine. So the first thing that we have to start talking about with the providers, and maybe you write great documentation, and I'm going to show you a very short one. As far as in the US, we use a thing called SOAP, SOAP, and it's subjective, objective, assessment, and plan. And I'm going to go a little bit more into detail, and we're going to add 2 more letters. We're going to add another P for what your protocol was. What did you do? Now, I'm very aware that there are things in traditional medicine that help people with conditions that maybe we don't want to share. And I'm going to use the coronavirus, COVID, as one. One of our acupuncturists in Arizona became very, very ill. And finally, his wife said to him, "You have to go to the hospital. You're that bad." And so when they admitted him to the hospital, the doctors told the wife that probably he would not come out. He would probably not survive. And so the wife, who was born in mainland China, she contacted her husband's mentor in San Francisco, and he sent down the herbs to put together. She knew how to boil them up. She boiled them up. She made the tea. She put the tea into a, I'm going to call it a Yeti cup or a thermos. And she said to the hospital, "This is chicken soup. My husband needs to take this." And they gave it to him. And within 6 hours, he had turned the corner. Yes, he survived. I believe that what you know, and we don't tell people these secrets, but these are what is going to change the face of healthcare. So I want you to think about it as we gather together for traditional, complementary, and integrative medicine. It's not only possible, but necessary. Around the world, people are seeking care. We have a brand new medical school in the United States. This medical school is started by a woman who is a family member from Walmart. Her last name is Walton. She has a $13 billion fortune, and she has started a new medical school. She built a building. It's 54,000 square feet and is built around whole person health, not just separating everything out. Now let's go back to where the safety tag was. And the safety tag presentation there said that the elbow may be somehow related to the neck. Well, medical doctors kind of went, "Oh, no, that doesn't work." And Dr. Houston said, "You need to talk to the traditional medicine providers because they understand that the whole body works together as a whole. You treat emotions, you treat physical, you treat social, and you treat spiritual. And you may do, someone in here does music therapy. I've talked to someone else in here who does other kinds of therapy. We need all of it because our world is in trouble. And I think you know that. All you have to do is listen to what's going on. I believe that we need to share these healing systems. And I've thought about 5 points. First, we have to create platforms for dialogue and exchange. And that's where this conference comes together. And I hope that we will have time to do that. Global conferences, cross-cultural learning situations, digital platforms can connect people from around the world. We have Zoom as well as everything else. Second, we have to begin to advocate for education, whether it is education in schools, and I know that we have a doctor sitting in the back who goes to schools and talks to young people. I know that in Ayurveda, there is a program on a very close island where he teaches kindergartners how to begin to eat. And I'm happy to say that in the United States, our new Secretary of Health and Human Services is beginning to look at food and the food additives. He knows what's going on, and he is very aware of traditional medicine and uses both. And I will say this, Mr. Kennedy, I'm sure all of you know that we have new government issues. And Mr. Kennedy is vaccine injured, not the COVID vaccine, but that's what happened to his voice and his vocal cords. Mr. Kennedy has been seeing a chiropractor for over a year in the United States, and his whole vocal thing has beginning to rejuvenate. And if you will listen, his voice is beginning to change. So we have to talk to government agencies. We have to talk to public health institutions and global healthcare bodies. We need to put this medicine in those. Third, we must invest in community research and documentation. That's the practitioner. We're going to call that community research. We have to have more documentation from our practitioners. And that's one of the things that hopefully you'll be able to help with. And fourth, we must collaborate. This does not mean assimilation. It means integrated. And we have to promote integration, not just dialogue, not dominance. And right now in the US, our Western dominates, and yet Western is very new on the fifth. We must lead with ethics and safety. So I want you to think about, and I hope that we can leave with something that says, we're going to do this in my own little way. We're going to do this. We have one new app in America called SAND, and it was put together by our national certification, and it stands for Safety Acupuncture National Database. And what the first statistic we're collecting is records with disciplinary, because we have issues whereby if someone gets into trouble in some area, and I hate to say this, but right now our biggest area is sexual impropriety within our acupuncture world. And some of it even made the headlines in the newspaper. And so then they would just go to another state. And the other states, because we have 50 different states that regulate acupuncture and say what people can do. So this database is open to all the state boards. So we're trying to work politically that way. We have to look at things. And I have brought you now do you want to pass those out? These papers that are sitting on the front, I'll give them to you. Does anybody know where the codes were built? Because coding is all now, those three. Coding is now all online. I'm going to give you a mapping exercise so you can access the coding. They have been built in the databases of Stanford University. And we came upon a deadline, and Stanford had not finished the acupuncture codes, the actual process of putting into the databases. And there were 3 people on that in the biomedical informatics department at Stanford University, stayed late. Their names were Samson Tu and Chandor and Tanya from Romania. And they stayed late for 6 months at night to finish the acupuncture codes, and they were never reimbursed for that. So we have people who are interested in these and how they're going to be used. So if you will look at the green sheet, is the acupuncture codes. It is a mapping of how you access them online. It is free. It is the first time in the history of these diagnostic codes that it's free. So share it with anybody that you want. You have to go down to chapter 26. You're going to access the browser. Then you're going to go and you'll see all of the ICD-11 codes, which are enormous amount of them. This is chapter 26. If you want to open up the next code, there's a little silver arrow. All you do is touch the arrow and it turns and that code will open up. Now, these codes are just the beginning. Once a code goes into the classification, it can never be taken out. But if you will look at the codes, particularly in acupuncture, you're probably going to say to yourself, we need more organ codes. Okay. We can add to the code sets. If you have an idea, you think that it should be included, then it has to be written up, submitted, and they have a committee that will look at it, and we can add to the code sets. Plus, every single country has the right to do their codes as they see fit when they adopt it. Maybe you'll speak to that. She's translating the codes into Romanian. Am I correct? So here's our expert right here, is translating the codes. It's been translated, I think, into about 8 languages right now. And we have 36 countries already using the codes in their healthcare system. So you have to figure out how is it going to get into your healthcare system. So I want to do a little expansion on documentation. And the first S is subjective. We're working on a template of how to collect the information that WHO wants as quickly as possible. And that is, the first piece is going to be D, and it is called diagnosis. And WHO is asking that the traditional medicine providers, whether you are acupuncture or Ayurveda, they're asking that you first have a Western code as closely to what your code in your medicine would be. So it would be a Western code, it would be an Eastern or a TM disorder, and they're going to ask for patterns. Patterns is what sets this medicine apart from other medical providers that are taking, whether it's, I'm going to use acupuncture as an example, they've taken acupuncture out of traditional medicine because you have to have herbs in the medicine to complete the medicine, just as they have taken yoga out of traditional Ayurveda. And acupuncture and yoga have become, buzzwords for people. So we're not just treating with a modality, we're treating with a medicine, and they need to understand that both of these systems are complete systems of medicine. That's one of the things we have to understand. So we have subjective. Let's go back to our documentation. Subjective, write down everything the patient says. I teach at a number of acupuncture schools, so I teach this, and I say to the students, don't just write down what you think is important. You have to write down what they say. And in medical decision-making, and we have a very great speaker going to talk about medical decisions later today, medical decision requires that you get the notes from other medical providers. It's the best way I know to meet an MD, because it's kind of you're doing it with the patient. Request medical records. Get them. In the United States, we have a law that says they have to send them. But then you're going to have a TM disorder, whatever that might be, using the codes, and then patterns. Now, somebody's an acupuncturist. How many patterns do you think there are? Patterns. Patterns.
About organ, about circulations. Yes.
There are many, many patterns. My students say to me, oh, there's about 100. I go, okay. Well, Dr. Dumbo from China, who's at the University of Shanghai, said that during COVID, they discovered, working with patients, over 3,300 different patterns. This is what creates your individualized patient care. And people trying to take you, whether it's a physical therapist, whether it's, you know, somebody else trying to take your codes and use them, or your medicine, they don't understand the patterns. Patterns is what puts you next to what WHO wants is patient-centered care. You customize a treatment. So write down everything the patient says. Your objective section is, how did you prove, whether it's with a test, whether it's with measurements, whether it's with your knowledge, how did you justify what the patient told you was wrong with them? Number 3 is assessment. This is medical decision-making. This is the thought process of the doctor. You have to create what you're going to create and then put it into a plan. That's SOAP. Now I want you to add a P, and you could be another P or it could be an O. And the second P is for your protocol. This means, will you write down the points? Write down what you did, because in research, it has to be reproducible. And one of the things everybody says is there's not enough research. Well, there is lots of research. It's just we have to find it. And the last one, you can say progress or outcomes. And progress/outcomes is measured and documented by the improved performance of activities of daily living. What can the patient do now after you've been treating that they couldn't do before? Whether it's walk, whether it's bend over and do the laundry, whether it's walk the dog, whether it's clean the bird cage, whatever it is, how did they improve in function? Now, I've given you a pain scale. It's the one that has the little faces on it. This is a pain scale. The front is for a patient, because patients come in, many of them have pain, and they say to you, oh, you know, I'm a 10 on the pain scale. Well, this tells them what they can look for. A 10 is that it's so bad, nothing else matters. So they aren't a 10 3 weeks in a row, because I know the medicine that you do works. So give them that. On the back of a pain scale, you could put, what is the function that is either they can't do something that they want to do. And in US, people say, I want to be able to have a nice time with my grandchildren, so I don't want to have pain. And look at all the medications we have for pain. But people also have to realize that it takes a long time for the body to heal. It doesn't happen in one visit, does it? It doesn't happen usually in 2 visits, although we do have miracle patients. It also shows continuity of care. It is scientific validation, and we must preserve indigenous knowledge. These people, our ancestors, have been around for centuries, and we must look back to the culture to move it ahead. Medical records provide critical information about diagnosis, allergies, surgeries, medications. Now, I don't know that much about all of the medications in your country, but I do know in my country that medications rule the medicine. Everybody's taking medication. And I'm friends with a pharmacist, one of the big pharmacies in America, and he said to me, how many medications do you think people are taking? Does anybody have a guess? How many do you think? We'll just say it's in the US. I don't know about your country.
8.
How many?
8.
Almost. It's somewhere between 7 and 14 medications. And then we have a senior facility in Arizona where I live. And he has been tracking the medications of the people who live there. And he has one gentleman that has 91 pills a day. Think about that. How do you even get out of the chair before taking your medication? So I want us to think about where we play the role. What is it that we treat? That's the other thing. People have no idea what we treat. So I want you to think about that. Documentation has to be done in an orderly fashion. This is what WHO wants now for this particular pilot project is being done. There's no identification except for the sex and the age. Nothing else is on there. They want the diagnosis, and they want it in double diagnosis, double coding. And then they want to know what is the, I'm going to call it the intervention. Are you doing acupuncture? Are you doing Ayurveda? Are you doing naturopathy? What are you doing? And then they want to know what is the progress. Those are the things they want to know so that they can begin to help us collect the data that we need worldwide. Documentation has 4 goals. Okay. Number 1, provides an objective description of the patient's problem. That's your history. That's your subjective section. Then you want to measure and record the patient's response to treatment over time. That's how we get reimbursement figured out. Some cases are going to take 8 visits. Some cases are going to take 20 visits. You have to decide. That's how we need documentation. It serves as a concise and complete reference for caregivers, care assessors, legal reviewers, and it establishes medical necessity. And medical necessity is for continuing treatment so that somebody doesn't say, oh no, 5 visits is enough. So we need this. So think about the title for this. And there's a new term, it's called an illness script. And that's all your points for your documentation. And then, okay, here's your pain scale. This is acupuncture, how to get there, how to look at the codes. I encourage you all to look at the codes, start using them, start playing with them, and see what you think. See if you think, we've already had people say we need more organ codes, okay? Research and promotion of attributes of traditional medicine are extremely important now. Not next year, not 2 years. Our opening is now. And the reason I say that is because people are not happy with Western stuff right now after COVID. So I also have given you, or I will give you, a list of things that you can do. It was on the slide, but the slides didn't make it. So we'll just review those and tell me where I am in time, please.
We are getting close. So
We're really close. Okay. I'll see if I can get this run off for you. There's things that you can do individually because one person does make a difference. Okay. You can have educational workshops. We have someone who does those. He might talk about that. Share stories and testimonials. And I would encourage each one of you to write your own story. Everything is about stories. Disney is one of the largest companies literally in the world today. Everything at Disney is what? A story. Whether it's written, whether it's in cartoon form, whether it's in film form, whatever it is, it's all a story. There's a story about how Mickey Mouse was born. So what is your story? Have your patients write their story. Share it with others. We need to collaborate with local practitioners. And she's the head of the Romanian Society. Am I correct? We have, I think, 2 of them here. Congratulations. Share it with your society. Start getting them into this. Okay. We don't want these codes to be all of a sudden adopted in your country and go, oh my, what happened? We want to be prepared. We want to start integrating. Start working politically. You have to have it if you're going to become either certified, accredited, or licensed. Build bridges with other healthcare providers. Last night we were at the dinner and we sat there and all the other people were from the group that's next door. And I kept thinking, I don't know anything about soil and things like that, but they're people who can help us. Okay. Ayurveda and acupuncture, you have to become friends. We're not opposite medicines. We have to become friends and work together. In Spain and beyond, our mission is to preserve ancestral healing while safeguarding patient well-being, fostering collaboration between traditional and Western systems for healthier lives for our citizens. Right now, what do I have? 2 minutes left? 5 minutes? Okay. I want you to either turn around, tap somebody on the shoulder in the back. I want you all to meet each other. We're the task force that is going to be doing this. I'm going to also ask you to sign my little book with a way that I can communicate with you. If you choose, you can read, this is my ad, okay? Acupuncture is a newspaper, but we have just gone 100% digital online. You can read it online, and we are opening up a whole column for Ayurveda, and we're going to open up an international column. It is, I tell them it's a rag, it's a newspaper, but it gives information. If anybody wants to write in it, I want to write about what you do, please, you'll be able to send it to the editor, send it to Peter, who puts the magazine together, and we're going to use this. How many of you know that September 23rd is International Ayurveda Day? Okay, we have two, thank you. And November 16th is International Acupuncture Awareness Day. And 2 years ago, I think it was, we contacted Google and we got over 3,000 people to tell Google, and they did their little logo for that day for acupuncture. So celebrate it. But education starts with you. Okay, I'll be here all day. I'd love to talk to every single one of you. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Sorry that whatever those slides are didn't arrive.